Have you ever sat through a company all hands meeting where leadership rolled out a bold new strategy? Everyone nodded, people asked great questions, everybody applauded, the energy was super high. Then Monday morning came and absolutely nothing changed. The strategy didn't fail because people resisted it. It failed because the organization taught everyone it didn't matter. After working with product organizations for nearly 3 decades, I'd become convinced that most companies don't have a strategy problem. They have an operating system problem. If you let the operating system problems go on long enough, the company eventually becomes numb to strategic shifts. Let's break it down a bit. First, we'll talk about why employees stop believing leadership. Next, we'll hit the Monday morning test, a simple way to know if your teams are at risk of becoming numb. Then we'll talk about why the operating system always wins. After that, we'll hit on a few real-world examples, and then we can conclude on how you as a leader can fix it. Let's start by looking at why employees stop believing leadership. Maybe the first time you introduce strategy, there's a lot of hope and excitement. Then you need to iterate on that strategy. The second time, maybe it diminishes to where there's just curiosity. The third time, maybe some skepticism starts to sneak in. By the 10th time, or actually probably even sooner, you'll start to see numbness with strategic shift. Now, employees aren't cynical, at least not to start with. They're empirical. They've been trained by the operating system. Here's how to tell if this is happening in your organization. After the introduction of a new strategy, ask yourself this question. What changed Monday morning? Did priorities change? Budgets, meetings, KPIs? Was there a new approval process or org chart changes? Was there a change in who's getting promoted, who should be fired, or who should get hired? If nothing changed, the strategy wasn't real. Or at least it didn't have a chance to become real. Every company has these two things, a strategy and an operating system, whether it's documented or not. Now, the operating system includes things like budgeting, planning, your organizational design, metrics, performance reviews, compensation and incentive plans, decision rights, and information flow. These are basically the processes, the systems, the structures, and the information flow that runs the business. The operating system is the thing that helps employees individually and collectively to do their jobs day to day. Sometimes the operating system is aligned to the strategy and helps the strategy to become reality. That's good. At other times, the operating system gets misaligned with strategy and creates friction in your ability to realize the strategy. Guess which one wins? The operating system always wins. And the operating system is always teaching people what actually matters. Think of it this way. Imagine you're driving down the highway and the GPS system says turn left in 2 miles. That's the strategy. We're going to turn left. But when you get there, they haven't actually built a road yet. Or maybe the road is there, but there's this huge median dividing the lanes, so you can't go over, you can't even turn left. That's the operating system. Guess what? Nobody is turning left. Now, the employees weren't behaving badly. The operating system didn't support the strategy. So let's hit a few examples. Now, for this first example, I want to have a little bit of fun and step outside of the business context. And I admit this one is a little exaggerated to make things more obvious. Imagine you're part of an elite downhill skiing team, but things haven't been going so well. So the coaches get together and they come up with a brilliant new strategy. They decide that because you're all great athletes and you all know how to ski, they should try to compete in the World Water Skiing Championships. I know it sounds crazy, but just go with me for a second. The team shows up to practice on Monday morning, and what do they see? Their downhill skis are waxed and ready to go. There are freshly groomed trails on the mountain, the ski lifts are up and running, and a few people didn't even bring their downhill boots because they assumed they'd be traveling to a lake or something. Why would they need boots? To cap things off, you have a regularly scheduled review session with your coach where you get an evaluation on what you're doing well and where you have opportunity to improve as a downhill skier. Well, the team did the best they could. They borrowed some boots and they went downhill skiing. What else could they do? Several of them were quite cold though because they were wearing swimsuits. What do you think will happen on Tuesday if there are no changes to the operating system? Most team members will probably show up ready for either downhill or water skiing. They won't want to freeze on the slopes and they'll want to be ready for either snow or water. Now, if there's no change by Friday, nobody's going to bring any gear for water skiing. They'll just assume we're downhill skiing. They'll ignore the strategy. So let's talk about some business examples. Try this one. Imagine part of your new strategy says we need to be more customer obsessed. Sounds great. But the product teams are measured only on velocity, and the sales teams are measured only on quarterly bookings. Support is understaffed. You have no voice of the customer data. Oh, and product managers, they don't even have a reliable way to talk to their customers. Guess what's going to happen? Nobody will become customer obsessed. Okay, let's hit one more business example. In this one, imagine part of your strategy says we must be more innovative in some dimension. But a team recently tried an innovative new approach to their work, and it didn't work out. And guess what? They were reprimanded. Budgets provide no capacity for any additional teams, and the current teams are expected to keep delivering on the commitments in the roadmap at a pace that does not allow for experimentation. And if that wasn't enough, it requires 5 different approvals just to be able to launch an experiment. You guessed it, in that scenario, innovation will lose. The strategy is not going to work. Does any of that sound familiar to you? I hope not, but it probably does. So the question is, how do you fix it? Well, for starters, don't just rewrite the strategy. Maybe you can do that later. But for now, rewrite the operating system. Just like a ski boat is a really different context than a chairlift and ski slope, every company's operating system will be specific to their business. But there are common components that span most businesses. You need to evaluate the alignment of each of these components within your operating system whenever you introduce new strategy. For each of these categories, check the alignment. Ask yourself questions like this. Do we have budget allocated to the teams and efforts required to realize the strategy? Do we have the ability to measure progress on the strategy? Have we deprecated metrics that aren't meaningful in our new strategy? Do we have scoreboards in place to help us see progress toward the strategy? Have we removed meetings from the schedule that align to the old world and added meetings to the schedule that support the new world? Do we need to hire more or different people to make progress on our strategy? Are we even recruiting the right type of people with the right skill sets in the right markets? Do our promotions align with the people that are advancing this strategy? Or have we empowered the people meant to run this strategy to be able to make decisions? And do those people have decision-making frameworks in place? Have you reviewed and reset planning cadences to account for this strategic shift? A big gotcha can be making strategic changes outside of those cadences. If the strategy is not aligned with normal planning cadences, you may need to break cadence and replan to make this real. Have we realigned organizational structure, teams, and people to support this new initiative? And have we been clear on what teams can stop doing to create room for new efforts? At the end of the day, employees don't believe what leaders announce. They believe what organizations repeatedly reinforce. If your operating system isn't changing Monday morning, your strategy probably isn't changing your company. If you've seen this happen in your organization, I'd love to hear about your experience. Drop your war stories, both positive and constructive, in the comments. Just make sure to be kind and don't violate anyone's confidentiality. I hope to hear from you. I'd love to engage. Thanks.